This is the QB Huddle podcast, hosted by Tim Smith and Brandon Newey.
Well, hey everyone, and welcome into the QB Huddle podcast. I'm joined by my podcast partner, Brandon Newey. I'm Tim Smith, and Brandon, man, it's been a while. We've been talking about doing this, and here we are. How excited are you?
Man, I'm fired up, man. It's a blessing. I know we got a really good opportunity ahead of us. We appreciate everybody who's put in a lot of work to get this done. And I'm fired up, man. I think this is going to be a good season. It's a very unpredictable season, but we're going to do our best to navigate this the best way we can.
Yeah.
And just have chatter, man. You know, you chatting with your brother, man. It's going to be fun. So I'm excited.
So we're just, two old quarterbacks going to sit here and talk to you about quarterbacks as if we were talking to each other. We have producer Mark Watson in the background. He's making it all look nice for us, and anything that you think is cool, it was probably created by Mark there on the back end. So thanks to our fabulous producer for helping us get this off and get it going. I'm really excited to get going with this. So before we do, so the folks know, I'm a Cowboys and a Bears fan. Brandon is a 49ers fan and a Titans fan, and I think we sprinkle a few other things in there too, just
we
depending on the day.
But it's Niner Nation over here, man.
We see the golf bag in the background. We're both avid golfers, but Brandon, you got a chance to go out and play today. How did that go for you?
Yeah, man, it was good. It was tough, man. It was real tough. I mean, we played
Tour 18 here in Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Play with my buddy. Shout out to Sean there. We had a good time, but man, the first hole was set up pretty easy, and it was dated back to the late 70s or late 60s, excuse me, with Arnold Palmer making that comeback in the U.S. Open. So we got to have an opportunity to play that hole super easy. Piped one, got par, felt good about myself, stepped to hole 2, complete just, oh no, it's the Pinehurst, hole. And if you golfers are familiar with that hole 1 on Pinehurst, it's got a lot of rough. It's a ton of sand dunes everywhere. And you're just like, come on, man. So your margin of error is real thin. End up getting a double on there, and from there it was just survive.
Survive.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go. Brandon invited me to go out there with him, but we were busy last night. And folks, keep your eye out because we did our first test show of the Couch Coach podcast last night, which we'll talk more as we get through the season and kind of get you guys over there too. There was some really good content being laid down last night. But let's talk about quarterbacks, Brandon. That's why we're here. Let's start off with the quarterback carousel. A lot of movement. What are your thoughts about what happened in the offseason?
Man, it was a ton of moves. This was an offseason for the ages. Veteran quarterbacks finding new homes in free agency, along with one of the most talked about trades in the past week. We want to dive into this discussion and just kind of break down some of those recent transactions. I feel the number one, obviously, for everybody is going to be Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. I think it's a great move. I think he gets a fresh start. He's got Nathaniel Hackett, who's an offensive coordinator in those back-to-back MVP seasons. He's got some young weapons in Garrett Wilson. Also brought over 2 of his boys. That's real important as a quarterback. You got to have that chemistry. And for many years, he's had that chemistry with Randall Cobb and along with Alan Lazard. So look out for those guys to make an impact. But the AFC is tough, man. With that top 5 defense, I think they can make some things happen. But overall, a good move for Aaron Rodgers.
I agree. I agree with you. I love Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. I was an avid Bears Cowboy fan. I hate Aaron Rodgers to my bones. I wanted nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. I would tell anyone that would listen that he was overrated. He was terrible. He was lucky, which he was all those things while in Green Bay. But now he's in New York, and I'm cheering for him. I love that he's there. I think it's a great match. He looks happy. He looks rejuvenated. He's got a couple really solid weapons on the outside. He's got solid run game. The offensive line gives me a little I'm a little nervous with the offensive line there.
Yeah, it doesn't look good there. Green Bay, he was spoiled, right? He was spoiled with that offensive line for years.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, but I'm with you. I think Rodgers to the Jets is a great move. What do we got next? Carr to the Saints. I like the move. I like the move for Derek Carr. I don't like it for the Raiders. I don't know why they let him go, but how do you feel about it?
I think it's another solid move. I mean, shout out to EXO last night on the podcast. We're trying to get going here, but he mentioned it. You know, that's another dark horse. You know, I think the Saints have a good defense. They have Chris Olave. They have Kamara, even though he's on that 4-game suspension. But they got Jamal Williams, who had 17 touchdowns last year. I think he's going to really add some momentum for the red zone. But Carr is not a bad quarterback. If you looked over the years, he's been pretty consistent. He's just had some bad teams, right? It's unfortunate he hasn't won a playoff game yet, but I think with this defense that's already really been gelling for many, many, many years, even during the Sean Payton era, they're going to have an opportunity to make a splash, especially in a weaker division.
I agree with you again. I mean, you
Yeah,
didn't say anything that you couldn't agree with. I mean, he has been a solid quarterback. He is a
right,
good talent. I was surprised the Raiders moved on him, and he is in a weaker division. This is a chance for the Saints they feel probably to win the division and get into the playoffs. And anything can happen if they get into the playoffs. So good move for the Saints. Good move for Derek Carr. He's going to be somewhere where he's loved, right? And that's probably
right.
something that's been important to him.
Yeah, the city's already embraced him, man. I think this is a fresh start again, just like Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes you need, you know, that breath of fresh air. You know, you've been stuck in an organization for so long. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes new is good.
Now let's talk about new. Jimmy G was with your 49ers, took them deep into playoffs. I mean, took them to a Super Bowl, and now, for whatever reason, was expendable. They let him go. He ends
Yeah,
up to the Raiders to replace Carr with his old coach there from New England, although they're talking about maybe he's on the hot seat there, Coach McDaniel. But forget all that. I love the fact that Jimmy is with his old coach from the Patriots. He's going to run the same offense he ran when he had some success there, filling in for Brady at times. I love
right.
the move for Jimmy G. We know he's probably just going to be a bridge quarterback at this point. That seems what
Sure.
his career's come down to. But how do you like him going to the Raiders, and what do you expect out of that move?
Man, I like Jimmy, man. He won 70% of his games here. You know, unfortunately, he battled through some injuries, but during those full seasons, he was able to take his number one to an NFC title game and number two to a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, we lost, but I think it's another solid move. But again, it attests to what you're saying. He's a bridge quarterback. I mean, he's been in the league for many years. He's already made $100 million, you know, as a quarterback, you know, back in that free agents era when we signed him. Um, but be on the lookout for that kid from Purdue. That kid's got
Ain't
an
no
incredible
problem.
story. Yeah, I mean, he looked like a 10-year vet out there. And I know it's preseason, guys. I know it's preseason, but you still have to anticipate and throw in windows. You still have to throw in rhythm. You still got to get your guys in the right play. You know, play clock's crucial in the NFL, especially as a young quarterback in the preseason. But if he gets off to a slow start, now their schedule really doesn't play in their favor, right? That
So
first quarter of
true.
the season is going to tell us a lot. If Jimmy can stay healthy and they're in close games, I don't think they make the move so fast. But if they get to a 1-6 start, you know,
Oh, Lord. Brandon.
7 maybe it's
One
going to
and
get bad,
six.
and we're going to see the new rookie come in, and
Okay.
you know, with Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs just getting signed back, they have great talent out there. Max Crosby, I mean, that defense is a little underrated. I feel they could make a splash, but it's only how consistent can Jimmy Garoppolo be, and can he stay healthy? Your best availability is what, or your best ability is availability, and you got to
100%.
have that. If you
Hey,
don't have it, what can you do?
Raider Nation, Brandon just said that y'all suck, and the Raiders aren't going anywhere this year. I mean, you predicted them to be 1-7 and going to Aiden O'Connell. I hope that kid doesn't get thrown in that kind of fire, but
He might. He
but he
might.
could. You're
He
right.
might.
So next up, we were gonna talk about this particular quarterback, but I'm gonna save that for last because I know it's gonna be passionate for you. So I'm gonna stay in or go back rather to the NFC South. Baker Mayfield goes to the Bucks. A lot of controversy around Baker. I love Baker. I've loved Baker since he was in Oklahoma. He was the first quarterback that made me fix my schedule to watch Oklahoma games as a Michigan and UT fan. But I wanted to watch Baker Mayfield play. He was amazing. I thought he did great in Cleveland. People forget before the injury, he took the Browns to the playoffs. He took them to Pittsburgh. They beat Pittsburgh, and he was just a play away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, and then he got hurt. And then he had a bad relationship with Odell Beckham apparently, and things just kind of went sideways for him. So for me, I love that he's in Tampa. It's a resurgence. They've still got a decent defense. He's still got two great weapons in Mike Evans and the other receiver now, Godwin, 14, Chris Godwin. So he's got weapons. They've got some running backs, good coaching. So I'm all over the Baker. I'm on the Baker train. Where are you at?
I'm on the fence, man. I'm on the fence, and I tell you why. There's been talks about Mike Evans being traded. That would really hurt him because Baker's never had a weapon like that, right? If they can keep Mike Evans, keep that veteran defense going, I think Baker has a chance. I think what's really hurt Baker is he's had multiple offensive coordinators and multiple head coaches in just a short amount of time. So he's always having to work on the fly. If you don't get it right, you're moved out, right? I think what he did with the Rams in that short amount of time, especially during that Thursday night game, that was incredible. I can't take that away from him. But Baker, he's got to limit those turnovers. I think if he stays consistent with that defense and Todd Bowles, it's a weaker division. It's in the air, right? It's up in the air. You know, I think the only ones really a favorite there is probably the Saints, just because they have veterans out there. Okay. But Baker thrives in this situation, right? I mean, he's a two-time walk-on, former number 1 overall pick. Nobody believed in him, but he did, right? And to me, when you have a chip on your shoulder like that and you're almost out of the league here, you know, I remember hearing Colin Cowherd say, you know, you might as well just go be a college football analyst. I don't think that's in Baker's makeup. He may be a great one, but he's a different breed, man. He's got some dog in him. And I feel like a fresh start obviously helps, but is this going to be his last stop before he becomes a backup? Is this his last opportunity? And if it is, can he maximize it with those weapons? If we go back to his career, he's never had a weapon like Mike Evans, ever. And Mike Williams has 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's one of the most underrated receivers of all time. That is true consistency at his finest.
Yeah, Evans is a true talent. He made Johnny Manziel a number 1 draft pick. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Johnny threw it up.
Mike Evans is amazing. if he does get traded, that's going to be a shame for Baker. But you're right. I agree with you. This is, as much as I like Baker Mayfield, this is his last opportunity to be a number 1 in this league.
Absolutely.
More than likely. So we talked about some movement with the 49er quarterbacks, and you know, you sit there with Purdy now. He's healthy sooner than what we thought he was going to be, so he gets to play. You signed Sam Darnold, right? We talked about that a little bit, or maybe we passed over Sam Darnold, but you got Sam Darnold. So let's go to that first before we get to the big news in San Francisco. So you have Sam Darnold now that you lost a quarterback in the offseason. How do you feel that Sam Darnold is in the building? And were you on board with it from the start as a 49er fan?
I was not on board with it. I was completely against it because I wanted to see Trey Young develop. I think having 2 rookies on the salary cap helps that continue that veteran team and continues to hold that. I think adding Sam is an insurance policy. I mean, if we go back in time, especially 6 seasons with Kyle going into his 7th, he has played 10 quarterbacks. That is unacceptable. He's played 3 quarterbacks each season. Each season. Come on, man. You've got to develop these guys. You got to have patience. And Kyle doesn't have patience with that. He's a play caller, and he's great at what he does. But he needs that quarterback developer to really groom these guys, especially Trey. We gave Trey such a bad hand. But back to Darnold. Darnold started over 50 games. I understand from a business standpoint, he's a veteran QB to the point that you made. I totally get that. Former 3rd overall pick from USC. I'm a Trojan fan myself. He turned the ball over a lot, and that translated to the NFL, regardless if he had a bad franchise with the Jets, with Carolina. I'm not going to knock his talent. I think the kid has talent. If he does step in, I'm concerned. But his upside, if he has a way to prove it, he's special. He could be special because he does have talent. Let's not take that away from him. But, man,
I think you're reaching.
When you got 61 TDs to 58 INTs, man, that's hard to handle. And Kyle Shanahan hates hates turnovers.
Sure. I think the 49er fan in you came out just a little bit when you
Oh,
used
it
the word
did, man. I'm fired up about
special.
that.
Okay. I mean, look,
Ooh,
from a business standpoint, the way you lost all your quarterbacks last year, you had to go out and get a veteran quarterback because you didn't know what Brock Purdy or when Brock Purdy was going to be healthy.
sure.
Now he is. Apparently, he beat out Trey Lance in the offseason in practice, which brings us to the next point that Trey Lance gets shipped off to Dallas last week. As a Cowboy fan, I was confused. I was happy. I don't understand. I like the move at the end of the day. I don't expect that he's here to replace Dak Prescott. I wouldn't mind if he did. I don't think that's not why he's here quite yet, not today. But we have him. You don't. How much does that hurt your heart after what you gave up for him?
Man, that hurt my heart. My thing is, why even draft the kid if you're gonna get rid of him in year 3? Why even draft him? Why give up the capital? I'm not saying. I mean, some people are saying, "Oh, he's garbage. Oh, he can't do this. He can't do that." Guys, we got to understand that kid only had 300 snaps coming in. That's not a good body of. That's not a lot of body of work, right? It's going to take some time for things to slow down. Understand how to protect yourself. Understand how to anticipate in those windows off that back step. I think Trey needed a lot of QB mentoring, and I think that as smart as we think we are, we didn't do our homework on this kid. I think we got anxious. I think we got a little nervous, when it came to the actual play of, hey, we got to find a quarterback because Jimmy may not be it, right? So we rushed the process. I think we rushed the process big time on this because why take a kid and draft him that high when you could have got him at 12? And you know who you got at 12, right? Michael Parsons. So think about that. Think about the people that we miss on so many times. I feel like right now, Trey is in a great situation, and it pains me to say that. It pains me to say that. I hate seeing him in that blue and silver. Oh my gosh.
I
Spare me.
mean, you had that situation in San Francisco. I think if they just ride with Jimmy, who consistently wins games in San Francisco. I understand he got hurt a year ago, and so you kind of fall into Purdy, and now you've got a guy that won you a lot of games and looked good doing it.
Right.
Takes you to the
Right.
NFC title game. So it's a hard thing in San Francisco. There's a lot of egg on a lot of people's faces there
Yeah.
after losing
We
your number
blew it.
one pick after all that. Yeah, I mean.
We dropped
I
the ball
mean,
there, man. We
as a
really
Bears
did.
fan, I feel you because we did the same thing with Mitchell Trubisky. So I can
You think
understand
Mitch
where you're
was the
coming from.
guy?
Well, I mean, it's not even whether or not he was the guy. It's
Right.
that he was 5-0 at the time when you benched him in the game only because you wanted to get your new shiny toy on the field, who had won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. And I mean, I think he gets a raw deal. People forget Mitchell's the one who took the Bears to the playoffs and drove them down in the fourth quarter to beat the Eagles, and the kicker double doinked the kick, and then a game later the Eagles get to the Super Bowl. So Mitchell was
Damn.
there. Mitchell was doing good things, and now he's a career backup, and it's a shame.
Now, before we get off on that topic, if you think for 1 second that he's not a threat to Dak, come on now.
I didn't
Come
say
on
he's
now.
not a threat to Dak.
I think he's a threat.
Dak's
I do.
salary tells us that he's not a threat to Dak today, and it's going to take him some
Right.
time to get.
Guaranteed money's up next year. Right.
Yeah, it's going to take him a minute
Sure.
to get it to get cemented into the system. We have Cooper Rush, so we
Right.
have a solid backup if Dak goes down, which he has the last 2 years. So, there's a good sense there that he could go down at some point, and maybe at that point we do bring in the super athletic Trey Lance. I'm not upset if we have some packages for him before the end of the year and somehow get him involved, particularly in our quarterback run game because. Dak doesn't need to be running around anymore with the injuries he sustained. I don't think he wants to run around anymore. I think that's a big
Man,
part of it.
I mean, he has missed 18 games in the past few seasons. I mean, it is definitely
Yeah.
possible. Even though Cooper Rush was 5-1, we understand that. But just like you talk about Purdy, we got film on him now. The defensive coordinators have film, and those guys with the gray hairs in their beard that stay up late at night, they got film on Cooper Rush, right? What if that doesn't happen? They need another dynamic to step in.
I think that's
And I think
overrated.
that's where Lance capitalizes if Dak goes down.
Film on guys like Purdy and Cooper Rush who sit in the pocket and throw in rhythm. I think we are talking about film on a guy a little bit too much. when I think film's really important, it's more so the athletic quarterbacks, the RPO quarterbacks. You're looking for their tells. You're looking for their weak spot. Do they run better to the right or to the left? Do they throw when they run one way or the other right? Those are the quarterbacks you got to worry about. I don't think watching film on these pocket quarterbacks is really helping anyone. I don't expect Purdy's going to have a fall off. And I think if Cooper Rush had to go in the game, he runs the offense so well. And with the new West Coast system, I think it would be even better. So,
I mean, going back to that, even if you're in the pocket, there's some different tendency factors, right? We all understand that Brock does kind of struggle a little bit with the deep ball as far as putting that zip on there. Jimmy G struggled with throwing outside of the hashes, so there are some tendencies, right? That's but true. I think like we'll see when it comes to Cooper Rush, like can he still create that wave? But we're talking like Dak's already going to get hurt. I don't think he's going to get hurt. I think he has a great season. I think he could have a great season. So we'll see.
Quarterbacks watch film too. So I think everybody's watching film to get better, right? So let's talk about. We talked about all the movement, right? We know who's going where. We know who the big names are. We probably know some of the obvious answers here, but who are you looking for to make the biggest impact with the move that was made in the offseason between all these quarterbacks?
The biggest impact? Man, I mean, the obvious choice would be Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers' line is suspect. I think one of the biggest moves that not a lot of people are talking about is Derek Carr to the Saints.
Okay.
I mean, I can see that happening. I can see them elevating in that weak division. It just depends on how their schedule, plays out. And if Derek Carr can take care of the ball, we all know he's one of the top quarterbacks when it comes to consistency and actually leading in fourth quarter comebacks outside of Stafford. Maybe there's an opportunity. We'll see, especially with a good defense. Like the Saints are still good. Let's not throw that out, right? They still got good weapons, and they got a good fan base. That it's hard to play there. It's loud. That division's weak. I mean, I can go on and on about it, but we'll see. I think that's the biggest impact for me outside of Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go with the bait, and I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers is going to have the biggest impact with the Jets. It seems like he had already had the impact before he stepped in the building. There was a lot of excitement there. It makes me a little nervous there on Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks teams typically don't have great seasons, and we kind of fall in love with them because we get to know the guys a little bit more. Right throughout that off season. So that makes me nervous. If I had to pick someone outside of Rodgers, I'm going to stay in that division and go with Baker Mayfield to the Bucs because they were lost. I mean, Tom Brady retired. Mm-hmm. They keep talking about Kyle Trask. I'm not a believer. Not even a little ounce in Kyle Trask, and so they had to get something. They had to get somebody because that division is winnable. And I think that much like you think Derek Carr, I'm going to stay in that vein and say that that'll be Baker Mayfield kind of resurging his career and having a massive impact on that offense in Tampa.
Now, I would debate you on that Aaron Rodgers scenario too. Man, their first quarter is a gauntlet. If you look at their first 4 games, it's a gauntlet. They open up against the Buffalo Bills. Then they go to Dallas at Dallas. Then they play New England, which, by the way, was one of the number 1 defenses last year statistically. Yep. And then they play Pat Mahomes. Come on, man.
I'm going to be there. I'm excited.
That's tough. Yeah, you're going to be there, man. You got to go live.
I'm in the building.
You got to see the action. But I think if they can get through that at least 500, 2-2, then I'm going to feel more confident. Like, okay, they could easily go 0-4 here. Easily.
They could.
Easily. They could. That especially, I'm looking at this New England game as a trap game. That defensive line versus the New York Jets offensive line is the best thing to watch. Okay, that's going to tell the tale. If they can't protect Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to want to run around, right? He wants to get rid of the ball. Okay, you got a little bit questionable injury with Lazard. Man, that's going to be tough. So We'll see.
Okay,
they can get 2-2. They got a chance.
I feel you. The schedule's hard, but all the NFL schedules are hard. Some are harder than others. I mean, they're in a very tough division. You have to play Buffalo twice, Miami twice, New England twice, although I'm not on the New England train. I don't think that New England's going to be any good. They probably have a decent defense, but you're going to have to score
Now,
more than 10 or 17 points to win games.
now, I want you to go back and take a look at the Saints schedule.
At the who?
Take a look at the Saints schedule with Derek Carr. First game, Tennessee, then Carolina, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, New England, Houston.
It's a lot easier, isn't it?
You see what I mean? Like the Jets are about to go through it. They're going to show exactly who they are in that first quarter. And if they can get past that 500, man, you may be on to something.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Either way, without Aaron Rodgers, they definitely are going 0-4 in that scenario. So when you talk about impact, if he can get him to 500, maybe that's a huge impact, right?
Yeah,
it's all relative. So Brandon, we've got a lot of movement. We got veteran guys that are out there, and we talk about this every single season. It's this will change throughout the year, but who's on your hot seat quarterback wise coming into the year?
I mean, number one for me is going to be Russell Wilson. I think he has the most pressure. He's coming in with a new coach that has a certain way of doing things. I think the season last year with Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, I don't know if that's really him, and I hope not, because I'm a big fan of Russ. I think he can extend plays and be dynamic, and he's one of the best quarterbacks since he's been in the league. And he's taken a step back, and maybe that's some confidence that's dropped. The Broncos country, let's ride.
Maybe it was too much confidence.
It didn't work, man. They're ready to get your ass out if you don't turn this thing around. I think it's going to be tough for him. I think Sean Payton could elevate Russ, but Russ has got to adapt to what he's trying to do. But also Sean has to adapt to what Russ is good at doing. And hopefully he really brings that out, because most coordinators, they're stuck in their ways that they want this done a certain way, a.k.a. Kyle Shanahan, that they don't cater to the guy's skill set. You've got to cater to his skill set and the strengths. And I think Sean Payton is going to go back to that same style that Pete Carroll were in with Seattle, right? Because they had Brian Schottenheimer out there for many years as the OC, and they were a very heavy run team. And so if they can maintain on that run, that'd be great. Also, Judy's out with a hamstring injury right now, so they ain't looking good for their first quarter of the season either.
No.
They've got a couple of people that are injured as well. But I think Russ right now is one of the number one hot seats. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue that Russ is on the hot seat. And more than anything, for me, it's not even about the way he played. It's the way Sean Payton came into the building. He came into the building hot, right? He came in like an M14. He was like, you're out. You can't be here. You go. I've never heard of this stuff. We're not having phones. You can't wear your sunglasses on. No floppy hats. Next thing you know, everybody else around the NFL was wearing floppy hats and sunglasses on the sideline, except for
it was
the
kind of a weird thing. It was a little ego. It was a little
it's been weird. And I'm a Sean Payton fan, and I'm a Russ fan. I just don't know if that marriage is going to work long term, right? I think Sean Payton is there, and it's my way or the highway. If you don't do it this way, I'm going to get you out and get somebody in that will do it the way I want it.
Oh, yeah, that's why he signed Jarrett Stidham to a nice backup deal. What was it, like $4 million?
I suspect Russell may be with you. I think he may be on the way out regardless of what happens this year. And, so yeah, definitely. I also am going to put Tua on that list. And it's less of a hot seat and more the fact that he's sustained some really big injuries. And there's a lot of expectation going into last year that wasn't realized. And now here we go again. And your division has gotten tougher. It hasn't gotten easier for you out there in the AFC East. And with those receivers, if Tua can't get it done or he sustains some more head injuries or things of that nature, how much longer do you ride with them if you're Miami? And how much longer do you keep playing football if you're Tua and sustain any more head injuries this year?
Yeah, I agree, man. I think Tua, it's only because of his injury history.
Yeah.
That's just – it's unfortunate. Don't get me wrong. The guy's tough as nails. He's a great player when he's healthy. He's accurate. He's poised. If you look at it, every time he's in, they pretty much win, right? But it's if he's healthy. I think that's the biggest question. I don't think it's for lack of skill set. So, Tua, if you see this, don't be sensitive now, damn. Like Ryan Clark, right?
We're fans.
Hey,
Send us a jersey.
we're fans,
We're
but
fans.
guys, I like you, man. But damn it, hey, protect yourself. Learn how to slide. Tuck your
Slide.
chin in when you hit the shoulders, right? Like, my goodness, there's a little wild child out there. But hey, love his game. Love his game. But another one on the hot seat, it's Kirk Cousins. You know, this is a prove it year for Cousins. You know, he set the tone with the guaranteed money for quarterbacks. And hey, kudos to him, right? But you've got to advance further than a divisional round with that type of talent you have on that team. And I think, you know, shout out to EXO. I think he could agree on this. You know, unfortunately, Stephen did bring up a great point. He finally gets an offensive coordinator for the second consecutive year. That is impressive. That stat was insane. Like, he's never had the same coordinator, so he's always trying to adjust. That is a pro's pro. We saw him on the quarterback series on Netflix. I think he's great, but unfortunately, it's a business, right? If it doesn't happen, I think he's gone. I think they move on. If he advances to an NFC title game, I think he stays. I think that's the biggest factor, especially for the next quarterback coming up. But I'm gonna let you spell out yours first before I
Yeah,
circle back.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think Kirk is going anywhere. I think Kirk is locked in. I
We'll
think they
see.
love him in Minnesota. And I think he's in a division that this year, with Aaron Rodgers out and with the uprise of the Chicago Bears and what they've done to their roster and Justin Fields getting better, I think that division's up for grabs. And so, you know, I think you may get one, even two teams. I mean, you're definitely going to get one, but you may get two teams out of that division in the playoffs.
Sure.
I just can't see Kirk on the hot seat, but I'm going to give you one, and it's not. This again is not 100% because of him. This is partly due to injury and partly due to organization and what they've proven. But I'm going to say Brock Purdy's on the hot seat this year, and Brock Purdy is on the hot seat because you just gave away Trey Lance. You expect that you're going to get back to the NFC Championship game because you're a win now team. Maybe the Super Bowl is really where you're at. And if Purdy doesn't win the division and get you there, right? I mean, if you're 8-8 with Brock Purdy all of a sudden, I don't see the 49ers continuing to go down that road based on what we've seen from them, as they are quick to move from quarterback to quarterback.
Got you. 9-7 or 7-9. You know, they got 17.
So
I
there
don't
you go.
know,
You know what I
man.
mean.
I don't know. I think Brock is cheap, and I think they're going to ride with him for a little bit. I think he does everything that Kyle Shanahan wants him to do. I think he's found his guy, hopefully, because, hell, we don't know what the hell they were doing for the past 6 seasons. They went from Blaine Gabbert to C.J. Beathard to Nick Mullins to Jimmy Garoppolo, back down to Nick Mullins. It's just a cycle of BS. And it's like, can we just finally find our guy? Can we just find a guy and just believe in him through the thick and the thin? Just believe in him. And if it happens, it happens. I think you keep Brock Purdy for cap reasons. You don't have to pay him for another 3 years, right? We can still stack this offense. We can at least pay Ayuk, but right now I don't think he's on the hot seat, but I know he feels a lot of pressure because of how Trey left, so you bring that great point up. But I don't think he's on the hot seat to, like, if Brock we don't win the Super Bowl or we don't go to the playoffs, I don't think his job's on the line. I think they're going to build with this kid because they know they get him for great value, and we can keep this team around him. Brian Greasy was the one that chose Brock Purdy. It wasn't Kyle Shanahan. So he's the guy that's really developing him. And we're seeing the promise that he has. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but your job as a quarterback, for all you quarterbacks out there, is to deliver the mail, right? And you got the best seat in the house, and those players do all the cool shit with it. And you can just deliver the mail. It doesn't matter if you're dinking dunking. As me as a quarterback, I want you to bore me with completions. Bore me, right? Because that keeps my defense healthy so they can maximize when they get on the field, right? That's important, and I think that's what he does. And I think we're going to see that moving forward. He's just got to stay healthy, and I pray for that line, that right side of the line. It's been shaky for years, even with McGlinchey. He was a great run stopper, but he was not a good pass blocker, right? And we got to think we're going into Pittsburgh and TJ Watt sitting on that side. Oh boy. Right. That's a sleeper, man. I don't know. But my last one, man, is Dakota Rain. Old Dakota. Mr. Prescott. Being the Cowboys quarterback, you call yourselves America's team, and you haven't been to an NFC title game in 30 years, and you pay that man over $40 million. Now, I know, obviously, that's a good situation to be in at this moment, but his guarantee is up next year. And so what is he looking at, 60 million for a guy who's only won maybe 2 playoff games? Come on, bro. Or has he won 3? I think he's won 3.
No,
I think
he's won 2.
Is he won 2? Oh,
he's
my gosh.
Won 2. I don't see.
You mean to tell me Brock Purdy has as many playoff wins as Dak Prescott? Oh, my Lord. Yeah, listen, he's on the hot seat, brother.
I would
and he got a new kid in town.
I would love to agree with you that Dak Prescott is on the hot seat. I would love to agree with you. I can't agree with you, however, because of his contract and because Jerry Jones will never admit when he is wrong. And he has been wrong since 2016. He wasn't wrong to draft a kid. Fine, draft him.
Right.
It's not his. It's not Jerry's fault that both Tony went down and Kellen Moore went down and propelled the number 3 quarterback to number 1. It's not Jerry's fault that Zeke ran all over everybody that year and Dak completed a bunch of short dink and dunk type passes and did a good enough job to hold on to the football to get us to the playoffs. It's Jerry's fault that when Tony Romo was healthy, he didn't play him. When we went to play the Green Bay Packers here in Dallas that day, number 4 shouldn't have been QB1. It should have been number 9. And we will be haunted as an organization for all of history. Maybe until at least until I die. As a Romo fan, I don't think I'm ever going to see the Cowboys rise again.
I know that broke your heart, didn't
it? It did. It did. That made me – I almost broke up with Dallas that day.
You should have, man. Join the Niner train. We're used to dropping QB.
We're getting whooped. And, everyone wants to talk about the comeback, but, I mean, we were down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So you better make some sort of comeback. Anyway, I digress. I can't agree, though. I think the contract is too much. I don't think that they're going to be ready to hand over the keys to Trey Lance. I think trading for Trey Lance was a little push, and I think it was a splash for Jerry to get into the news. I think that was part of that. Jerry's not stupid. Trey Lance could be trade capital before the end of this season even. So it's hard to get too excited that Trey's here. I'd like to say he's going to be our future, but I just don't know. So, Brandon, now we've talked about all that, right? And guys, typically we're going to go into during the week who did what we saw. We might even break down some plays or some quarterback play throughout. But this is kind of our preseason. So we're kind of getting you all teed up for the season. And in that vein, let's talk about who are our top 10 quarterbacks going to be this year. In other words, who's going to be the top 10 best quarterbacks in 2023. I'm going to give you mine in no order, just who I think will be the 10 best quarterbacks this year, and then you give me yours, and let's see where we land.
Okay.
And some of these guys I don't like at all, right? So it's going to hurt me to say some of these guys' names, but the numbers are the numbers, and I can't be a homer here. So I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson's going to be back, Justin Herbert, he's proved it. Lamar Jackson, hopefully he can stay healthy for the whole season. Aaron Rodgers, we know what he brings to the table. Patrick Mahomes, probably the best quarterback today that's out there playing. This is the one. Jalen Hurts. But I think there's going to be a huge fall off there. Joe Burrow. We can save that for another day.
Okay.
Josh Allen, and this one's going to surprise you. But if he's going to keep his job, and if the 49ers are going to solidify the fact that they let go of Trey and not get beat up for it all year long, Brock Purdy has got to be one of the top quarterbacks this year and get the 49ers back to the promised land.
Man, I can't argue that, man. Brock's a dog. He's got that dog in him. I like my quarterback who has some dog in him, man. You got to have that grit, and I think he's got –
He doesn't flinch, as you said.
He's got the balance, right, of just being so calm, but he has this moxie about him, and you got to love that. My top 10 looks a lot like yours, Mahomes, Burrow, Rodgers, Hurts, Allen, Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, and Dakota Prescott. Hey, man, you got to
I think my
believe.
internet cut out just now. Did you?
You got to believe, man. I hope we
Jeez.
see you in the playoffs again, Dak.
So let's talk about the playoffs. Let's talk about the playoffs since you brought it up, Brandon. Who's gonna play in the Super Bowl, and then who's gonna win the Super Bowl MVP and why? Obviously, we're only talking quarterbacks here, so your MVP probably going to be the winner, right? I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I've always had the 49ers going from the NFC. I believe in the 49ers. I believe in Brock Purdy. I was going to go with the Bills and Josh Allen, although it's come to my attention, as you pointed out in one of our conversations here recently, and I have to agree, that Josh Allen may be the worst red zone quarterback in the entire NFL.
Maybe it's a fact.
And he just hasn't proven that he can get over the hump, right? And so I'm going to surprise, maybe not surprise, because I've been with the hype for the last couple of months. I'm going to say the 49ers are going to play the Jets in the Super Bowl. But because of the fact that Aaron Rodgers has proven that he cannot beat the 49ers
at all,
Brock Purdy will be your 49er Super Bowl winning MVP.
That's in Las Vegas. Right there, man. That's my brother right there. Look at you, man. Look at you. Come join us, man.
I got to drink. I got to drink some water. This is just water. I wish it was vodka because I
you definitely need a shot for that. That took a lot. That took a lot for you to say. That took a lot for you to say. And I appreciate it and I respect it. I mean, I also would say the 49ers as a Homer fan. I mean, of course, I want us to get it done. However, the way we've been set up, I don't know. I mean, as a Niner fan, man, my heart's been broken a lot. And I root for my team as much as I can, but I also want to paint the realism of it. And I think there's two teams that I don't feel we can simply just beat because of that quarterback skill set and just the way they do things. It's number one, the Eagles, and that's number two, the Chiefs.
Okay.
I mean, it could be a rematch, but Chris Jones has not signed. He has not signed with the Chiefs, so that gives me worry, especially, he's expected to hold out 8 games this season. And so I start to thinking, and I'm like, okay, well, where does that leave us? If Pat Mahomes can't go, Joe Burrow has an opportunity, right? But guess who's in the North that he's just flying under the radar and nobody expects him to do anything? Lamar freaking Jackson. I have the Ravens.
Ooh.
And it's between the 49ers and the Eagles.
Oh,
the Homer side of me wants to go.
Make a decision.
To the 49ers. But I don't know if we can truly beat them right now. I just don't think we're there. So I got Eagles-Ravens, man.
Who's your MVP?
And I think Lamar freaking Jackson.
Okay. So he's going to earn all that.
That's bold, isn't it? I just think it, man. The new weapons, the new offensive coordinator. I hope he gets back to the Louisville days with Bobby Petrino and his offense, right? That dude's one of the best passers in the pocket and against the blitz. If you look it up.
I mean, it's bold and it's not. It's bold and it's not. It's bold in the fact that he hasn't finished a season in the last 2 years. It's bold.
He hasn't.
That he has a new offensive coordinator, and we don't know what that's going to look like. It's not bold in the fact that we know that Lamar Jackson has the ability to do what you're saying. So that's not necessarily – we're not saying that he's some trash guy that all of a sudden is going to be fantastic, right?
I love Lamar.
I
love Lamar, man. Jackson. I mean, I think he's a great player. I think he's one of one. I've never seen anything like it. It's fun to watch him. He wins 80% of his games. He's just got to stay healthy. And I think if he stays healthy and Chris Jones – it's a lot of factors that fall into it. But –
True enough.
I mean, it's hard for me to even root, against with anybody when it comes to my Niners, but I can't do the Homer thing. I just gotta. No. Okay, if this doesn't happen, cool. But if it does, we got a chance. So don't hold me to that Niner Nation. I love my Niners, but we'll see. We'll
All right.
see.
Well, Brandon, I retired from fantasy football in 2016 when we were all there, Buffalo Wild Wings. I had just drafted
Yeah.
Tony Romo, and within, I don't know, five minutes or so, Tony went down and never played football again. And so it was at that moment that I decided I would never play fantasy football. But you blow up our text message groups with fantasy. You love the fantasy football. You're also very good at the prize picks. So we have a special segment just for Brandon to try to make you some money. He's going to give you some of his fantasy can't miss quarterbacks and some of his prize picks for week 1. So Brandon, go ahead.
Appreciate it, man. Well, fantasy quarterbacks, right? You've got to have these dual threats. I mean, you just have to have them, right? They complement in the running game, but not only the running game, but the passing game. I say Jalen Hurts is a top, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. This is another sleeper, Deshaun Watson. Think about it. He was one of the top 5 quarterbacks before all the shenanigans. Now he's got a whole new full offseason. He's got an opportunity. He's got weapons across the board. Eli Moore coming over, right? You got Nick Chubb. You got Amari Cooper. You got weapons, right? You got weapons to make it happen. And also, we can't forget it's an obvious choice, Pat Mahomes, right? You want to take these quarterbacks in either rounds 3 through 5. If you can hold out on Watson probably till round 7. But those other 4 quarterbacks I mentioned with Hurts, Jackson, Fields, and Mahomes, you got to get those guys early because they're going to go, right? You can squeeze. I did choose Justin Herbert in my fantasy league in our fantasy league, so we'll see.
Puts up great numbers.
Oh yeah, he's consistent when it comes to that. He's not going to run a lot, but if you can get your guy, 22, 25 points a game, I mean, that's all you can ask for, right? My prize picks now. If you don't have prize picks, these are prop bets. You're basically choosing one or the other, over or the under. There's 4 easy picks that can win you some money, right? You can bet $10, win $100. Okay, it's pretty simple. Dak Prescott over 0.5 passing yards. If Dak Prescott throws for 1 yard, which he's going to, okay, you're going to win that bet. Jalen Hurts, if he scores 1 touchdown rushing, okay, you're going to win money. It's easy, right? Deshaun Watson over 24.5 rushing yards against Cincinnati. I think he's going to get that, right? Zone read kind of guy. He'll scramble and move around a little bit. Aaron Rodgers under 253.5 passing yards. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had a 300-yard game in 18 games, okay? So I think they're going to rely a lot on the run because during his MVP year, while he may not have had as many passing yards, they had a very successful running game in Green Bay. And I think they're going to kind of control and play a little bit. You're playing a tough Bills team. I don't think you're just going to air it out on them in your first game. Okay, really your number 1 target is Garrett Wilson. Are they going to bracket him? Or is Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, if he's healthy, are they going to step up? But I do think Aaron Rodgers will throw for under 253 yards. And that's all I have. So hopefully you guys go in there and set it up. I think those are really good picks. That's a good 4-man parlay there. See if you can win some money.
I absolutely love that. And I'm still not going to do fantasy, but you've got me convinced I might do some prize picks. Seems like I can make some easy money.
It's easy.
I love that. Yes. I love that. Love it. All right. Well, hey, Brandon, man, that was a great week. We had a lot of fun. We're
awesome.
going to do this each and every week. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the QB Huddle podcast. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Even if we don't agree, we want to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Tune in. Be on the lookout for the Couch Coach podcast that's going to be coming to you very, very soon. And be on the lookout for the next edition next week of the QB Huddle podcast.
Peace.
Peace.